Hey, welcome back everyone. This is Bill. I am the expat prepper living in the Philippines. Today's video I want to talk about things specifically what you should expect after the first 90 days of a SHTF situation. Okay? So now you made it past the first initial crisis and the first 2-week assessment, and now you're in a holding survival 90-day mode. Now, we've all seen the movies, and I'm not talking zombies, but I'm talking about the type of survivors that have made it to this point with you. You're going to come across several types of people, and the movies will tell you they're not all good people, right? So the first kind of person that you're most likely going to encounter that's not part of your group will be the werewolf. And I didn't come up with this term. This term was coined by preppers everywhere. Now, the werewolf is typically going to be the survivor that wasn't prepared, and he survived the first 90 days by stealing, possibly killing, taking, pillaging, and maybe a loner in a group, right? So this guy might have just figured out who had the food, and he was going to just take it from you because that's all they had. He had nothing ready, right? He's in 100% survival mode. And they're the most dangerous types because they are unpredictable and they probably had to do things they haven't been used to doing before. Now, they'll get to form small groups at first, right? Like-minded individuals will get together. But then eventually these groups of werewolves, as I call them, will start forming a more organized type of group that's kind of guns and ammo heavy. They might be sticking with police or military background individuals. They might have a compound that they build and work out of. And these guys tend to be very exclusive. So the werewolf prepper, I guess, is the lack of a better word because they weren't really prepared. But the werewolf survivor is the type that is the most dangerous. Now the other type you're going to run across is going to be the lone wolf. Now these are the preppers that are by themselves. They probably don't have a family or kids. They tend to be an alpha or sigma type male. They're not going to bother you. Their whole goal is just to survive, right? Have what they need to take care of themselves. Now they might end up being a good trading partner for information or supplies that you run across, but they're already pretty much prepared in advance, right? So these guys have been thinking about, shit hitting the fan for a while. They've been slowly, building up their skill set. They're skill heavy, right? Because they don't depend on anybody else. So they learn a lot of skills. They really have life figured out for themselves. Now, I thought I could have been one of these guys, but I got a family and friends to watch out for. Most of these guys are probably already off grid as well. You might never run into any of these guys. They might be the type that are alone in the woods or just quietly living in a secluded little spot taking care of business. They might have a bunker somewhere, but most people that have bunkers are probably middle class or rich, because let's face it, bunkers are not cheap, right? So even the cheapest models, aren't that good to begin with, but most people don't have bunkers. Now, we've all had that dream of being a prepper and having all the money in the world, and we can build this fantastic bunker complex with servants and technicians to service you and take care of things. The reality is very few people in the world can do this. We're talking the billionaires, and the billionaires have these, right? So let's not say it's a fairy tale. It's just so out of reach for most preppers. And these kind of things you'll never find. In the movie they always come across these type of bunkers. But what you're really going to find is the old school bunker that was probably abandoned after the first 90 days, because the reality is you can't live in these things. They're really great for short-term or natural disasters such as tornadoes and hurricanes, not floods. But after the first 90 days, they really can be used for maybe as a secure storage. And it's basically because it's just too cramped trying to live in this type of a bunker, anything beyond the first 90 days, due to limited space, limited supplies, and it's just not fun being in a box underground. So let's be honest about that too. I would take one of these bunkers. The odds are you're going to form a community. And if you're in a major metro city, you might form an urban community of your survivors or friends that you knew prior to the event happening. Now there's some benefits to this. One is you can find a secure location, an old hospital building or an abandoned police station or something that's secure to be your base. And there's plenty of space because, right, we're assuming after 90 days a lot of people are gone. Now, in these communities, what tends to happen is, somebody will take a lead or a group of people will become a leader and they'll assign people to help with this group. Now, keep in mind that there's a lot of stuff to loot in a large metropolitan area. But also keep in mind that you might have other groups, and these may include the werewolves, out in this area too. You can basically figure out that you're going to be trying to rebuild in an urban environment. So you're going to have the rooftop gardens. You're going to have to find people in this community that have different skill sets. I myself would rather have a homestead farm community, something out in a food producing primary area, right? So an area where your community can either catch up to you in the first 90 days or catch up with you after the first 90 days. But in this community, what we're looking for is a diverse set of skill sets and a leadership model. It might be more democratic than you would imagine at first, but you're going to have something that's well prepared in advance. A guy like me that has a site out in the province has a lot of preparations already. So I imagine myself having that kind of community out in the province of the Philippines. This is the best method for me. I have limited skills, so I would need more people in my community with a diverse set of skills. Now, when we're talking about beyond 90 days, what we're talking about is trying to get back to a new normal, or at least get out of a crisis mode. We're trying to put back in some normalcy into your day-to-day survival and living going forward. So with that in mind, you have to have a community of people working together. You have to have people that are willing to put time into more than just finding food and securing food and having a secure location. Now you got to start looking at people that are willing to take the moment and rebuild. You're looking at farmers, people that can produce food, people willing to go out and produce food. You're going to need people that have knowledge that they can share, and you're going to need education, right? Because you're going to have kids with you. We're all hoping kids survive. And then you're going to have folks that are security orientated and that can do some of the scavenging for parts and supplies out in the remains of the world. Now, I don't envision this ever really truly happening because we're assuming that this is a full-blown shit hit the real big fan situation. But if it did, I do have a plan for that. And I would hope that if we did have a group, that we would be able to rebuild and eventually get things back to normal. That's all my ramblings for today. If you like these kind of videos, hit the like button. Please drop your comments down below. And thank you for watching.